everybody had a happy Easter this past weekend. NASCAR went racing on dirt. We had the Craftsman Truck Series run on Saturday and the Cup Series run Sunday night, and it was a load of fun. This race was one of the most entertaining that I've seen in a while on the dirt. I say in a while. There's only been about 3 of them, but yeah, it was pretty fun. So they were supposed to have practicing Friday, but that got rained out. So everything got moved over to Saturday. No practicing. We had both the qualifying heat races for both the Truck Series as well as the Cup Series. So with the heat races, you started wherever you were. You got points for finishing first. But if you started in the back, you actually gained points for each passing person, passing points, so to speak, for this. We did have a few people in the truck race that are Cup Series regulars. Logano, Byron, Briscoe, they all ran in the truck race to get practice, so to speak, which, I mean, I think Logano even said, I don't know how much this is going to help me next or Sunday whenever they interviewed him. So he ended up finishing first. He led 138 laps. He pretty much ran away with the show. Majeski came in second. Byron came in third. Crafton fourth. Enfinger fifth. So we had a lot of cautions. It's pretty much as expected with Truck Series. The 41 truck, who he was out there a lot. He just kept causing cautions after cautions. And, I was thinking about this the other day. If you're causing more than like 4 or 5 cautions, you think that you'd be parked. And just to kind of keep a consistency, a good race going, it's hard to get going in the beginning, especially on a dirt race. You want to have that rhythm and get in it and see how it goes. I know, some people would look at me and be like, well, hey, you're complaining about some of these other races where people are running away with it. And yeah, I am, but I don't think cautions fixes that. I think that would be a better racing, better package. We saw that at Richmond. And, with the Cup Series, I don't know. I don't think cautions is the way to fix, closer racing, because they're still going to run away with it. We'll see what happens going forward. A couple of my standouts in this race, Rajah Caruth, I've been talking about him a lot this season with the Truck Series, and man, he's been doing really well. He finished. Let's see, where did he finish? He finished pretty good. I would say he did well. He finished 11th. He actually had some guidance from Kyle Larson, which, I mean, everybody knows Larson's a really good dirt racer. That's kind of how he got brought up. So, I mean, and you could watch him racing and learn from everybody. Even in the heat races before the main event, he was learning how to run on this dirt race, on this dirt track. And you could see that it would come up, and he was hanging with the big boys, good for him. Haley Deegan, she finished 13th. This is kind of one of her strengths, dirt racing. She did pretty good. She was hanging up there, and the low in the top 10, the low like 5 to 10. She's hanging in there until there would be either they came in and pit or something like that, and so it kind of threw her off some. But I mean, overall, she did finish really well. Davenport, who is the dirt ringer for this race, Jonathan Davenport, he finished 14th. He ran for Spire in this one. He also ran in the Cup Series as well. But yeah, Thor Sport had a good real showing. Logano ran for Thor. So, they had 3 trucks up in the top 5. So, all in all, I think it was a really good race. Something really good, entertaining to watch. Moving on to the Cup race, Kyle Larson got the pole. He pretty much ran away with his heat race. I mean, he won and he got passing points. Bubba Wallace did well in his heat race. One thing I did not like, he did well and then he goes because he started at the beginning. He kind of complained that he wanted to be up higher because of his where he started and finished. It's like, dude, that's the luck of the draw. You can't sit there and complain about that. And I I don't know. He had a lot to complain about, and I don't really like that about him. I get if you want to complain about your car not handling well and things like that, but you just ran a race, did really well, and the second thing that comes out of your mouth is complaining about the race. So, hey, it is what it is. Moving on, JJ Yaley had a really, really standout heat race. He had a lot of passing points. I think he ended up coming in second in his heat race, but he did really good. It didn't translate too well on Sunday, but it's kind of cool to see somebody else that's not one of the big teams up there running third, first, second, third, so on. So Larson got the pole, Austin Dillon got second, and JJ Yaley got third in the starting. There was, as expected, because this is dirt, a lot of spinning. I mean, a lot of spinning, a lot of wrecking, bumping, getting out of it. This is kind of where the whole idea that, NASCAR shows their inconsistency yet again. And I say that because, they had, like Michael McDowell, he spun, he caught it, he caught his composure and kept running. They threw the caution. And you know what? I don't think that caution should have been thrown. It's one of those things that it's like, hey, that was not warranted because there was nobody really around him so much. He was able to keep going and run. But then they had some cautions. I think McDowell did that twice. They had some cautions where they were spinning, and it's like, they're coming up on these guys down on the lower end, and they didn't throw the caution. It's like, what's going on? You throw the caution for McDowell spinning when he regained his composure and kept going, and then it didn't happen. So hey, it is what it is. I don't like it. I'm still going to be calling NASCAR out on their inconsistencies because it seems like they tried to do a quick fix to fix that and then go on from there. It was pretty annoying, for that piece. Davenport didn't do so well. Again, we were talking about him with the trucks. He was the ringer, and yeah, that didn't work out too hot for him. He kind of came out and had some comments, which we'll cover later. Blaney spun, Chastain spun. He got wrecked, actually. It kind of stunk for him because it was almost like Suarez was getting loose, and that kind of caused some stuff. There's a lot of, people getting loose. Again, dirt track, but people getting loose and things happening to this. Larson started towards the end, and then he kind of worked his way back up towards the end of the second stage. So I think he had one of the stronger cars. Tyler Reddick was another guy that had a really strong car. Dillon was up there up front for a lot, and then Christopher Bell, he had a very strong running as well. So yeah, I mean, they had some really good strong cars. There was a lot of competition, I think, going forward. The leader did get out to a few leads, but it wasn't so crazy because they would actually come back and catch him. And this is one of those that they had non-competitive pit stops, even for the truck series, just so you guys know. This meant they didn't really have their true crew there. They had some of the guys that run the haulers and so on, and they changed everything. So you weren't really allowed, unless you wrecked, to pit during the race. You had to wait till a stage break. So some people chose to either pit both stage breaks, or they actually chose to pit one stage break and not the other. A good example of that was Truex and Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell pitted the first stage, but not the second stage. Truex pitted the second stage, not the first stage end. So it was different strategies play out, and it showed that there wasn't something so crazy going on. Larson wrecked out. Unfortunately, he got into it with Ryan Preece. Preece said they were hard racing and there was no animosity or anything towards him for that. Larson thought otherwise. He thought it was a payback. Preece was up there running pretty well himself. And I know they got into it, but I mean, we're talking dirt racing. These guys were getting into it back and forth. Some people were getting loose and, right into the turn, right before the turn, exit out of the turn. It was a dirt race. I mean, it was loose. It wasn't probably as controlled as some of these other dirt races are that you would see, like the smaller runs. But I mean, for me, for a full body vehicle like that, it doesn't surprise me. So our winner for this race was Christopher Bell. Reddick came in second, Dillon third. Justin Haley had a very good running for a colleague. He came in sixth. Truex came in seventh. Ty Gillen had another good running. He came in eighth. Then Harvick Gibbs. Gibbs, this is another top 10 finish for him. He's been racking in those top 10s, which is good. Bubba Wallace came in 12th. He kind of hovered and hung around towards that, 10 to 15 spot for a lot. Truex, he had a horrible run in his heat races. He started, I think, 27th. And the only thing that got him closer up towards the front was actually that not pitting for the first stage break. And he hung up there, but then he had to pit for the second because you got to get fuel and so on. So when he came in, that kind of shuffled him back, and he stayed back there. I think if he would have had a better start off after that pit, he could have been closer up there, but he ended up finishing seventh. He worked his way back up. He's one of the guys that I listen to on the radio, and I remember hearing he just wasn't confident in kind of getting it in there deep and whipping it around, which, hey, he's not a dirt racer. He just didn't feel comfortable, and he'd rather get a finish rather than a DNF. So, I can understand that. So that happened. I think it was a good race. I think a lot of people thought this was a very good race. It wasn't like the other ones where it was caution filled and it kind of got kind of dull, but it didn't finish super crazy caution filled. I mean, we finished under a yellow after the white flag flew because of Chastain and a couple other guys getting into wrecks towards the end, with, Suarez kind of starting it. But hey, it was fun. I liked it. Josh Berry got caught up in that wreck as well. He's been doing well. He's been doing well for replacing a Chase Elliott, which, he did. He got thrown in that car. He's ran it everywhere except for Circuit of the Americas, and he's held his own, in my opinion, done really well. I could see him getting a cup ride here, hopefully soon. Corey LaJoie didn't have a great run this time. He finished 30th. He had some issues in the first stage that they just couldn't shake. Kyle Busch, his suspension ended up breaking. He was doing pretty good too towards the beginning of the race. He was able to navigate through. He couldn't handle out for the full lead and keep going there, but he ended up just getting out of the race and DNFing because his suspension broke. And I think there was something else that kind of broke towards the end of it, but he had a broken shock and things like that. And it's just like, hey, that's what happens. We had a lot of toe links break, and this showed that, it's a plug and play style system. They were able to replace these pretty quick, which is good. They got them back out there. Matt Crafton actually replaced Cody Ware. He had an issue with his engine. He ended up not finishing the race. I didn't really see him too much in the race. I was slightly disappointed. I wanted to kind of see how he did, but again, watching on TV, they're going to focus more on the leaders or some of the action. And luckily, they focused on more action towards the back, but I think they again catered towards the dirt specialists, which, hey, it happens. But yeah, that was pretty much the gist of the race. Racing, this is the 8th race out of the season, and we've already had 7 different winners. So, we may be on store for, more than 16. And I'm just going to go ahead and clear the air on this. If you win and there's 17 winners, it falls back on points. So don't think this notion of win and in. That's not entirely true. I mean, if we have, you pretty much have 15 winners because let's say the regular season champion doesn't win, which is really going to be really hard to do coming down the line. But if you have a regular season champion, he automatically gets the bid into the playoffs without having a win. With that being said, you have 15 winners, and if you have 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 winners out of, I believe it was 26 races in the regular season, they're going to be vying for points to get in. So it's not a locked in as it was in the past because we would have people that would win multiple races. I think this is another time that we're going to see different. I mean, we've only had one repeat so far. Yeah, we're only 8 races into the season, but only one repeat. So let's see what it plays out. We got some interesting racing coming up. We're heading to Martinsville, Talladega, then Dover, and that'll end out this month. So, yeah, it's going to play out to be something very interesting to go forward. With unfortunately looking at the point standings, we have Truex is 10th, Stenhouse 9th. He's got a win. Harvick 8th. Our first non-winner up there is actually Chastain, and he's 4th. So you have Bell, Larson, Reddick are your top 3, and going forward. If we remember last week, we were talking about Bowman being up there. We'll kind of cover that here shortly on what happened there. That's part of the news that happened. Unfortunately, Corey LaJoie was up there running a lot closer. He was, 16th, 17th, 18th. This poor run that he had, I mean, take poor as just where he placed because, again, he's been running really well, and I give kudos to him. He was up there. He's 21st now in the playoff standings. I mean, he's got people like Austin Dillon, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Preece, Eric Jones, Eric Almirola, those guys kind of behind him. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to shape out to be interesting. Let's see what Martinsville does. Martinsville is always a fun race. Last time we were at Martinsville, we had a move that is no longer legal. The Hail Melon happened there with Ross Chastain that got him into the playoffs, into the next round of the playoffs. So, let's see what happens. Talladega is one of those that's a big up in the air super speedway type race that you could have a surprise, kind of like a Daytona. So let's keep moving on that and see what happens. At the end of the race, Jonathan Davenport, they interviewed him and asked him about it, and he kind of came out and I think he was upset. It wasn't what he thought. He's like, this isn't dirt racing. This is kind of pomp and circumstances. And, there's probably some people that will argue with it. And I'm going to pull the whole, the silly commercial said, the Geico one, if it's in the yard and this is a yard sale, then it's for sale. They were on dirt. They were running. It's not like you're used to because these cars are heavier and they're different bodies. And yeah, they adapt them. These are mostly, road pavement style racing vehicles, but they ran it on dirt. What do you think they did back in the day with with their cars, in the 50s and so on? These cars, Bubba would go drive it down to work and then he'd go down and start racing on the dirt. So I get his frustration. I think he thought he was going to come out here and, mop the floor, I guess you could say, with it. He seemed very optimistic at the beginning before he got, in between the heat stages Saturday and the racing Sunday. And then it just turned. I just don't think, I think it's like these Formula One drivers and the IMSA drivers and so on. He's not used to what these guys can do and how they race and beat and bang on each other. So, I don't know. I get his frustration, but at the same point, it's like, dude, you're coming into a system that you're not used to. maybe, maybe if you ran a little bit longer, it would go further. I don't know. But anyway, and some of the news that we had super late model racing. I believe that was Thursday. There was a Kyle Larson special that had Kyle Busch, Davenport, Briscoe, those guys running in it. Larson ended up coming up and winning it, and Briscoe actually broke his middle finger, I think, on his right hand. In these races, the wheel kind of got spun around and popped him, so he was running with a quote unquote crutch Saturday and Sunday. And when you think about that and you see how he did pretty good. Again, this is one of those races that you're not going to be doing a ton of shifting. He'll heal up, and we'll see what happens going forward. But yeah, he did well there. Bush ran there. This was all done at Volunteer Speedway. We'll kind of keep up more on what's going on with some of the dirt racing going forward. Going on also with the dirt racing, I just saw some news that happened a few days ago. The Chili Bowl will not be renewing their contract with Lucas and Mav TV, so they're looking for a new person for the Chili Bowl that happens out in January. So be on the lookout for that. If I see any more news about that, I will let you guys know. Some unfortunate news going on with dirt track racing. Justin Owen, I believe his last name is Owen, not Owens. He passed away due to racing his car, some violent flipping and spinning. And, our condolences go out to his family and the people that were there. They immediately canceled a lot of the racing that was going on there after that incident. So, again, prayers for his family and condolences out for them as well. Moving forward with some of the appeals and everything that happened, Colleague lost their appeal. They only gained 25 points back from what happened. If you guys remember, they got caught. Justin Haley got caught with the louver issue that the Hendrick cars got caught with, and Hendrick cars kind of got off scot free, only having to deal with $400,000 total and some suspensions. Chris Rice, he's one of the guys that works for Colleague. Man, he was ticked off. You could see it the way he looked, and just kind of going forward with that. I think they got done wrong because Hendrick came out scot-free. NASCAR got ticked off at this. They changed the rules within the appeal process, which, that might come back and hurt a Colleague, because I believe they're coming back up and going to bring it up higher to another appeals panel. Now, keep in mind, this appeals panel, there were two different appeals panels. They didn't hear them on the same time because, they're two different teams and so on. But, if you ask me, either Hendrick had some very good lawyers. I mean, I'm going to say lawyers. I don't mean lawyers, but very good power persuasions, or, somebody was playing favorites. Who knows? We don't know because we weren't in the room. Colleague, I think they got the short end of the stick because they were in the same position as Hendrick, and they got the book thrown on them. This comes back to kind of like the sports, other the sports, stick and ball sports, ball sports. They go after the smaller market teams because dare they touch these big money makers like I'm just going to throw it out there, a New York Yankees, a Boston Red Sox, a Los Angeles Dodgers, where everybody loves them all over the world. You're not going to throw the book at them because they're your money makers. And obviously it was seen with those guys. They had letters that, the Yankees were suing to get the letter not read aloud, and it comes out and says, yeah, you guys cheated too, but nobody thinks about that. Anyway, going back into that, Denny Hamlin, he had his penalty upheld. I think that was a very not smart move on him to appeal that. He kind of came out and said, yeah, I wrecked him. Keep your mouth shut. I think, who was it? Kyle Busch said it. I talked about it a few weeks ago. Keep your mouth shut. Don't talk about that stuff. If you do, don't be shocked that you're going to get penalized for doing something. Come on. That's Hamlin trying to be Weasley, in my opinion. And that was stupid on his part. If you want to wreck the guy, don't talk about it. So moving on, we had some new penalties last week. the 24 and 48 cars were issued L1 level penalties for modifications to the greenhouse. Greenhouse is kind of like the windshield windows area and where they meet. They got caught with those. So they lost 60 driver and owner points, lost 5 playoff points, and their interim crew chiefs got suspended as well. I mean, again, I think the crew chief suspension is one of the dumbest suspensions out there. Not because, they need their crew chief in there, but the crew chief's going to sit there in the war room back in the Carolinas or in Ohio if you're, truck series at ThorSport and call the race from there. If you want to suspend crew chiefs and those kind of guys, make them sit at home and, drink a soda, drink a beer, whatever, and watch the race. Don't say, oh, you're just not coming to the track, because they'll get information relayed and they'll still call the race. I think that happened with Chad Canals back a while back. So it's one of those things that's kind of silly. In other news, also, we had the All-Star race information come out for what's going on in North Wilkesboro. The race is going to be 200 laps. All laps will be counted. There's going to be a competition break around lap 100. And that's where we're going to have our fastest pit crews, that kind of competition. Teams are going to start out on stickers. They're going to have 3 sets in the pits. They're going to be able to change out their stickers at the competition break. And then after that, they can come in one more time after that competition break towards the end and put new stickers on if they so choose. So that first stage, you got to run on tires regardless. There's no change in tires. I assume they'll probably allow that if you get a flat and so on. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I'm kind of looking forward to see what North Wilkesboro, because that was before my time in NASCAR. So I kind of want to see how this track runs. Just to recap on the All-Star, to get in, you have to be a race winner from last year or this year. You actually have to, you can be a past champion of the race. So like a Truex, a Larson, a Keselowski, those kind of guys, Harvick, they can get in without having a win. Or there's going to be 2 spots filled from the open race, which is going to be a short race before that. And then I think that open race is actually going to be on a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, on that Saturday. And then you're going to have the fan vote get in as well. So, fan vote, I think last year was Bubba. I could be wrong. But yeah, if you're the fan vote and you get in, I can't remember if they go to the next person in the open race to let them in as well. So with that being said, that's what we got going on. Again, this weekend, we are going to be at Martinsville. We're going to have everybody running trucks, Xfinity, and Cup Series. Friday, we are going to be having some truck qualifying and Xfinity qualifying. Starting, TV time starts at 3 Eastern for practice and qualifying for trucks, 5 for Xfinity. This is all going to be on FS1. And then 7:30 that night, we're going to have the truck race on FS1, MRN on the radio. Saturday, we're going to be having practice for the Cup Series starting at 4:30, qualifying 5. That's going to be on FS2. Xfinity race is going to be starting at 7:30 on FS1. Sunday, our big racing starts at 3 Eastern. This is going to be televised on Fox Sports 1, FS1. So, just so you guys have your TV information out there, it's also going to be on MRN. So MRN's covering the race this weekend, and we'll see how everything goes from there. It should be some good racing. We're a big change from this weekend. Again, I hope everybody had a great Easter. We're going to be changing it out. We'll see what happens. So again, everybody, I thank you for listening to this. Please like, subscribe if you guys want to put anything out there. Any questions, comments, suggestions, feel free to, be listening to them. So, until next week, you guys have a great week and talk to you later.